Well, hey there, health coaches. Today we're going to be talking about the actual meat and potatoes of our businesses, or the actual, I don't know, tofu and carrots of our businesses. Oh my goodness, I just realized my headset's not plugged in. Give me 1 second. The sound quality will improve. There we go. Isn't that so much better? Maybe we should have an episode about technology hiccups and stupid mistakes that Michelle makes every week. No, today we're going to be talking about working with clients. And I know I always feel like kind of cliche when I say this, and I'm like, oh, it gets a lot easier with experience. Oh, it just gets better with time. I know you don't want to hear that. And we've been getting a lot of questions about, like, what do I do with this client situation? What do I do about that client situation? So I am here today to happily lend a hand to whatever you are going through. But do not worry, we are not going to be straying too far from marketing and business building topics here on the podcast. In fact, this December and January, I'm going to be doing a special series for you dedicated to helping you make 2020 your very best year yet and turn health coaching into a real business for you. You know, getting out of that hobby mode, getting out of that place where you kind of cringe when somebody asks how many clients you have. This is going to be our year, people. So look for that series starting next week. Now, today, I also want to give a friendly hello and a virtual hug to Taylor. So Taylor, if you're out there, hello. And I'm going to read the 5-star review that you left for us on iTunes. Taylor said, I'm a new health coach and I love Michelle's podcast. She's real, she's down to earth, and she filters out the BS. Her health coaching tips have helped me so much as I embark on this new career path. I love that she is succinct, to the point, and addresses real questions that her audience asks. If you're just starting out as a health coach, your lingering thoughts and fears are likely addressed in one of her podcasts. I walk away from each one with new knowledge and a sense of encouragement. Starting your own business definitely has its challenges, so it's great to have a reference of support. I also love being part of the Health Coach Facebook group. It's a great place for support, feedback, and new information. Thank you so much, Taylor. We are glad to have you here. And thank you to all of you who have taken time to leave a review on iTunes. Like, here I am. It's like 2 days before Thanksgiving. Crazy week for all of us, right? And every week I'm here giving away free content and answering your questions. And for those of you that take the time to leave a review on iTunes, well, you are just wonderful, wonderful people to offer that gift back in return. Taylor, please send your mailing address to support@healthcoachpower.com and mention episode number 85 because we have a little thank you gift headed your way. Okay, let's get into today's Q&A all about handling real life client situations. And if you're here with me live and you have a real life client situation, feel free to throw that into the comments. I am always happy to give you advice on the fly. But I got one here already from, this is a big one. Oh, so this is from Taylor, actually. I don't know if it's the same Taylor. We have many Taylors in the group. So anyway, from the same or different Taylor. And she said, I have a client who has completely ghosted me. We've had 3 sessions so far, and she was figuring out some things about herself that were going to be great roads to explore, but has now completely stopped responding to anything and everything I send her. I've reached out 3 times in the past 2 weeks, just checking in. Just let me know what's going on, blah, 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 all those types of things, and not a word from her. She was a little shy to start with and not doing the things that she would come up with during our sessions, so I know she felt kind of down about it all. We broke her action plan into the smallest things I could come up with, and the most recent things she left our meeting with were to recite a mantra that she came up with daily to help with strength and self-esteem, and write 1 thing in a gratitude journal daily. Sounds doable, right, you guys? Okay, she says, I really had hope with her as she is the perfect client in the way of needs and how much progress she could be making if she stuck to it. I know this is not my fault, but it is still frustrating. She's my first real paying client. So I broke it down into a payment plan for her, and she still owes me a bit of money. I'm planning on just taking that as a loss, but I don't want to lose her in general. So help! Have any of you had a client ghost you? What did you do, and how can I get her attention again? I have been as kind as I know how to be. Oh, goodness. It sounds like dating. And it's hard. It really is
hard. Taylor, I think you're taking the right approach insofar as you're not getting angry, right? You're willing to take the money as a loss. You're not like, that's not what you're going to hang yourself on, this last, whatever, a couple $100s that she owes you. So those are healthy ways to approach it. And has this ever happened to me? Yeah, of course. Of course. And I'm sure you've done this to somebody else. I mean, maybe not a coach per se, but think of all the people you've hired, courses you've purchased, gyms that you bought a membership to. You know, sometimes you spend money on something with the best intentions, but then life happens and you just let it go. You know, you never actually take advantage of that unlimited yoga pass that you bought, even though you really intended to when you first dropped that $150. You know what I mean? So it's just human nature. And I think that in my experience, it is rarely personal, like she didn't like coaching with me, or I said something, or it was too much work, or whatever. And it's usually 9 times out of 10 something going on in their life. You know, there's a sickness in the family. They got laid off at work. They're having boyfriend trouble, you know, whatever it is. And their mind has just literally been elsewhere. Their priorities are elsewhere. And I mean, it is kind of their prerogative. So I don't feel it's my job to hunt my clients down. And I'll give you an example of a client I recently had who did this to me. And she's a phenomenal woman and a phenomenal client in many, many ways. But, you know, we always talk about clients have to be ready, willing, and able. And in many ways, my client was ready, willing, and able, except not that able because of her schedule. Really busy schedule with work, having to travel, you know, just so many things out of her control always going on, needing to reschedule. You know, we're supposed to have a meeting every 2 weeks and it turns into every 6 weeks or something. And again, has nothing to do with you as a coach, has everything to do with their ability to commit. So, you know, I follow up with her when I hadn't heard. Hey, just wanted to check in. Let's get something on the calendar. Another couple weeks pass. Hey, hope everything's going great. Just wanted to get something on the calendar for you. Here's a link. Bing, right? And then that's it. I'm not chasing anybody down. And I don't think you have to either, Taylor. I mean, it's great to offer yourself, hey, I'm here if you need me. But then I would just drop it like it's hot until they come back to you. And if they come back to you within a reasonable time frame, depending on your agreement with them, you might pick right up where you left off. And there might have been a reason and you're just like, oh, okay, cool. But now we can kind of get on with it. That would probably be ideal. In many cases, you don't hear back, or you may hear back, but it's like months and months and months later. And that's what happened with my client. She did get back to me, but it was well outside the window of when all of her sessions had expired. And she said, oh, I'd like to use my remaining sessions, or I'd like to continue working. I forget what she said. And I basically was like, your sessions have expired months ago. What do you have in mind in terms of continuing to work together? Because if she was willing to pay for another package, I was willing to take her back on because I loved her. But if she wasn't willing to pay for a new package, then I felt I was being taken advantage of, that my expiration dates don't mean anything, that the package she buys with me is not valuable enough that she's going to uphold her end of it, or she can't uphold her end of it. And she just said, oh, I see, and kind of bowed out. Okay, that's just going to happen. No hard feelings in either direction. And so Taylor, I would stop trying. Honestly, you've done what you can do. Move on to the next. Just move on. Take it as a learning experience, and dust off your shoulders. Keep it moving. I just quoted Lizzo, you guys. I want a little credit for that. Okay, here is another question. Oh, okay, we have one from Margaret. She says, now remember, I haven't seen this before, you guys, so I might just have to say, I don't know. Let's see what Margaret has going on. She says, I have a client who has no time for anything. She's about 50 pounds overweight, but isn't open to ideas on how to make more time, boundaries, and not eating just for comfort. Not sure what I can do because I feel like I'm failing her as her coach. Any ideas? You know what happens? It happens a lot. Sometimes you'll get people that come to you and they're just like, I'm not going to cook. I don't want to cook. Or like, I don't want to eat vegetables. Like something that's like pretty core to like most of our work as health coaches. I don't want to exercise. And you're just like, okay. On the inside, you kind of cringe a little bit. But I think all of these things are opportunities to investigate further. You don't want to exercise. Well, tell me more about that. Or this woman, what? She isn't open to making more time. Well, how did you decide to make time to work with me as a coach? Tell me about that. What was going through your mind? So I think it's just always a matter of taking what your clients give you and turning it around and handing it back to them to expand on. We're always just trying to dig and find little crevices where we can get in there, because some clients are tough, man. They don't want to give an inch. But if you keep asking the right questions, you'll kind of get there. And it doesn't necessarily mean, Margaret, that she is going to start, making more time, or that she is going to stop eating for comfort. It just means that you might find something else. Sometimes I get into these really, really interesting conversations with my clients about, like, oh my goodness, I have this client now telling me about her childhood, being raised in poverty, and the issues with her mother and her father. And it's all so clear why she has the problems that she has now, and I'm not her therapist. I'm not anything close to that, but I asked the right questions. It cracked her open a little bit in just the right way, to the point that, like, what she eats for lunch today really does not matter. Like, these much larger things matter. So if you can keep it okay. It is okay for your clients to be where they are, and you kind of like work with them. You'll eventually forge the path where it's supposed to go. But that's a great question, Margaret, and thank you for bringing it up. Okay, who else has got a client situation that we can unpack a little bit today? I've got one from Kristen. Kristen said, this is kind of a funny one. She said, there's a guy who emailed me about a week ago via a physical therapy company that I partner with to provide nutrition services on that email address. So it was a bizarre email. I didn't know how to respond to it, so I just put it aside. Then he found my actual business website, and he emailed me again from my contact form. It was a long, detailed email about his health, and it was actually kind of funny. But before I could respond, he then filled out my application with even more details. And I thought, all right, this could be good, even though he's not my target market. He's a 65-year-old man, and I mainly work with women in their 30s. I scheduled a phone consultation for Monday. Well, now he's found my Instagram, and he liked a bunch of photos, and he wrote a long comment on an old post. And it's clear he spent some time on my feed and is spending a lot of time looking at my website. He said that he, quote, reveals too much, and he's obviously a talker, but I don't know. Now I'm kind of rethinking that call. What would you do? Kristen, my first instinct was just like, like, no, thank you at all. And then I was like, maybe there's no harm here. He's 65, sometimes, like, my mother just turned 65. So I know how she uses the internet and text messaging, and it's very, very different from how I do, or certainly how even like the younger generation does. So I'm willing to cut him some slack that maybe he's not quite as creepy as he's coming off. However, being that he's outside of your target market, and being that it's making you uncomfortable, I don't really need to know much more. We have like really limited time and energy, right? Like, you and I, we have the same number of hours in the day. I know my energy is like down to like this minimum right now, because we're going into the holiday season, and my son's home with strep throat today, and it's just madness. I don't got time for this. So that would be my answer. That's like just where my mind goes. Like, I don't got time for this. Like, if you're falling outside of this structure that I have created for my business, I don't care how good it sounds. I don't care what opportunity it might be. I don't care how nice you are. I don't got time for that, because I just don't have a structure in place for that. I don't have a program that makes sense for you. I don't have a way of communicating with you because you're 65 and I'm not used to that. Whatever. People will sometimes come to me and ask for, like, not necessarily creepy, but like off the wall things. And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't do that. Like, someone from my son's school just came up to me the other day and was like, oh, Michelle, we want to do like a like wellness, like nutrition thing for the PTA. And I was just like, not part of my business plan, not my circus, not my monkeys. Even though years ago I would have been like, wow, that's such a great opportunity. And I would have spun my wheels on like tens of, I don't know how many hours, 10, 20, 30 hours figuring something else, something out for this PTA event. But these days I'm like, I do like 1, 2, 3 things, and I do them really well. And if you're falling outside of that, I don't got time. So that's my take, Kristen, but you're going to have to let us know how it goes. That one definitely gave me a chuckle. It is funny what we come across. Okay, here's one from Amy. Okay, this one I have to really think about. I read it briefly earlier, and now I'm going to put my brain on it 100% for you, Amy. She said, I've been getting a few new clients lately, yay, but noticed in the process that I have a kink. I do the discovery call, and then I follow up with an email about what program matches their needs and the cost. And it feels awkward. I'm wondering if there's a better format to offer the platform to work together. How do you transition from discovery call to confirmed client? Is it just verbal on the call, or do you do something more formal before they say yes? Okay, got it. Amy, ideally you want the yes on the call. And not only do you want the yes on the call, you want the credit card on the call. Now, it depends how you're doing your billing. If you are invoicing somebody through PayPal, then you're going to get the yes on the call and like immediately invoice them. Hopefully they don't change their mind in the interim. These days, because I use Practice Better, I'm able to get the yes on the phone and immediately take their credit card number, enter it in, and boom, we're in. We are in like Flynn. So that is like the perfect situation, which means on your call, you're not just having a consultation, you are having a sales call. In fact, you should think about these calls, and that does make it feel a little more scary, sorry to say, but these are sales calls. We're not doing them because we care about the person's health history. I only care about your health history if you're paying me. The reason I do the consultation is to sell you into becoming my client, at which point then, yes, 100%, you have my eyes, my ears, my everything on your health history. But the point of the sales call is to get that person to understand the problem that they're having, to understand why they can't solve that problem on their own, and then for you to tell them why your program slash services slash whatever are the perfect solution for the problem that they just outlined for you. And this is the cost, and these are the logistics, and how does that sound? And then take the credit card number and get it all done with. So that can happen all within a 30-minute call if you know what questions to ask and what order. If you're just sort of like, oh, and then tell me about, you know, your mother's side of the family and what's the health like over there, and hey, what do you eat on a normal Monday? Then you're not having the right conversation. I have so much more to say about this, Amy, but yes, try to close the deal. I hate that term, but try to seal the deal right there on the call, or else you're going to end up with a lot more like people who just flake and you never hear from again. Now, that being said, years ago, before I really had this figured out, I would do what you're doing. I would somewhat. I'd have the conversation on the call. I was too chicken and I really felt uncomfortable talking about money. So I would follow up with my packages and price points, and I would tell them which package I thought was the correct package for them and why. So I don't think that what you're doing is terrible. I just want you to know that if you're not seeing the closing rate that you want, and by closing rate, I mean how many of these calls turn into a paying client, that's a good indication that you want to change something about how you're doing it. Okay, so think about how you're accepting payment. Even if you can't get payment over the phone, one thing that you can do is you can get somebody scheduled. So like I had a consultation earlier today, and you know, it was the old let me talk to my husband, which is fine. So in that case, what I do is I schedule a time to call again. I say, okay, great. You know, when is a good day to follow up so we can talk about what your husband has to say? Okay, I'm going to call you then. I put it on the calendar. I send them a calendar request. And hey, the first session that we would do together, let's put that on the calendar now. I'm going to pencil you in. I'm just going to hold that spot so that we have a time that is convenient for you. And, you know, then it's there when we begin. And this way they feel like they're really, really taken care of. It's almost set in stone. And that helps solidify things, even if they do have to think about it or talk to their husband or whatever it is. Whew, I really could go on and on about that, but thank you for asking the question, Amy, and I hope that that was helpful. Alrighty, here is one from Tracy. Tracy said, would anyone be willing to share an evaluation form that you use for your clients to complete at the end of a health coaching session? Tracy, I have no such form whatsoever, so I have nothing to share with you. I think what you're probably trying to get at is some feedback about your coaching and maybe a testimonial. And what I want to tell you is that if you give somebody a form that says, please rate your service or, something like that, you're going to get like very short, kind of terse or stilted answers. It's not going to really have like the emotion and the meaning that comes from something that's just organically written. So the best feedback that I get from my clients usually comes in the form of emails that they send me between sessions or during the calls themselves. So whenever you're taking notes during your calls, and yes, I always take notes by hand while I'm on the phone, write these things down. Like, listen, your clients will give you testimonials. My client the other day said something like, oh my God, Michelle, I can't believe all it took was changing my breakfast and now all of my sugar cravings are gone. Boom, write that down, right? So I just kind of scribble that in the margins of my page. And then at the end, I might go back to those notes and pull out some of those key statements that they made. And I'll say, hey, here are real things that you said during our time together. Would it be okay if I use this in my future marketing materials? And 9 times out of 10, they say, yes, absolutely. And then you're good to go. And then in terms of an evaluation form, again, someone can say like, oh yes, I found Michelle very friendly or very helpful, but that is meaningless. It's so much more useful, again, to kind of go back through your notes and you're like, okay, and when we started working together, your skin was all broken out with eczema and rosacea. And now here we are, 5 months later or whatever it is, and you just said how your skin has never been this clear. I mean, that's an evaluation. That's all you need to know, right? The before and the after, so to speak. So don't worry about the forms. Forms are boring. Just talk to the people. All right, I got a couple minutes left. Let's do another one. What do we have? Catherine said, I just did a consultation with somebody as a requirement for graduation at IIN. She would like to work with me, but at this point, I feel ready, but I don't have a business license yet. She said she needs a social security number or tax ID so that she can be reimbursed by insurance. I'm not sure what to tell her. Has anyone had this experience starting to coach right before graduation? Okay, so a couple things going on here, Catherine. I want to try to hit on them real quick. First, yes, you can start working with people before you graduate. Please do. Please, please do. Don't put it off. I started working with clients when I was halfway through IIN. And for those of you listening, IIN is the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, where many of us went to school, but many coaches in this community went to other schools as well. But anyway, halfway through the program is when I started working with clients. And by the time I graduated, I believe I had 8 or 9 paying clients, thus funding the tuition that I had paid on the school, right? Paid it off by the time I graduated. Amazing. Highly recommend. So you can start. There's no reason that you can't. You don't need a business license. You don't need a tax ID number. You don't need a business bank account. You don't need anything. It can just be you, and they're giving you money, and your accountant can figure it out on the other side. Should you have insurance? Should you have a business bank account? Yeah. You will figure all that out in time, but don't put off starting to get experience working with clients. Now, as for her thinking she's going to get reimbursed by insurance, she is likely not. She's really likely not. The only time, and I know this is changing, and someone's going to email me and tell me about the new health coach, blah, blah, blah thing that's going on. But in real life, real practice with real clients, I have to tell you, nobody's getting reimbursed by insurance. Insurance is not covering healthcare. Not covering health coaching at this moment. So that is not even a conversation to be had. Hopefully in the next few years, maybe, I say hopefully in quotes, because I think it will also be a huge pain in the neck. That may start to change. The only client I have ever had in literally 10 years of practice that got anything from their insurance was more about their flex spending account. And I was able to give them a receipt with a description of services and yes, my tax ID number, and then they were able to submit it and get reimbursed from their flex spending account. But not every flex spending account is the same, the FSAs and the HSAs. So she would really have to check with them first. And you can talk to your accountant about getting a tax ID. I believe you can do that even if you're working as a sole proprietor so that you're not giving out a social security number. Whew, that was a lot to unpack, right? You thought it was a simple question, but it was not a simple question. A couple different things you got to worry about there. All right, you guys. So listen, remember, next week, our special series is going to begin on how to turn health coaching into a real business and make 2020 your best year yet. So keep asking all those great questions, and I will be back next week to answer them. Take care, everybody.